So when you're starting out working towards something like FedRAMP, CMMC, you have a compliance goal in mind, you get told to start with a gap assessment. And we get asked all the time, like, what is a gap assessment? Is it worth it? This seems expensive, takes a lot of time. So let's start at the very beginning. Like, what is a gap assessment?
Gap assessment, if you're specific, it's you have a goal and where am I at compared to that goal? What's the gap between me and where I want to be? And then you're simply trying to figure out what's the cost in terms of time and resources that I'm going to need to spend to get to the goal. Simple as that.
Love that. So super helpful to start out there. But like we've seen, there are some pitfalls when you go to get a gap assessment. So if you're going to make that effective, what should somebody keep in mind?
At the very beginning, we talk about this a lot. Plan, execute, report. Those are the three pillars of risk management, both on the implementation side and on the assurance side. So planning, what do we talk about? What kind of data do I have? What are my data flows? What are the people, process, and technology that touch that data so that I can achieve whatever organization outcome I want? So if you don't know that and you're going to say like, oh, I just want someone else to do that, be careful, right? Because that's going to be really expensive because they don't know. So they're going to go interview everybody and they're not going to have the whole picture. And then they're going to go interview someone else and they're not going to have the whole picture. And that can be very, very expensive. And that's why gap assessments can sometimes be really, really expensive. So it's better that you understand what those are and you can prepare those and give those as inputs to whoever is performing your gap assessment. So that's a start.
So
right?
Try to have the data flow scoped so that you're saying, here's the scope of the gap assessment. It's not the whole company, it's here's what we're looking at.
At the very beginning.
At the very beginning. Mm-hmm. I love that. And then the other thing you've talked about before is being really specific with the end goal. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so getting to FedRAMP High or IL5 is a different goal than getting a SOC 2, which can be pretty pedestrian in terms of implementing security. It's good, but those are not the same things, right? So you can't say, oh yeah, I have SOC 2, FedRAMP should be easy. No.
Yeah.
No. So, and again, the scrutiny around data flows is going to go up the higher your goal is from an InfoSec perspective. Where does that go to? Are you sending that data to authorized vendors? Because what happens with FedRAMP, when you're sending that data, everything needs to be in a secure enclave, right? So the way that you manage encryption from data at rest to data in transit, all of that needs to be ticked and tied. It's not the same as like, hey, we're just doing our best, which is often what a SOC 2 is, honestly.
I love it. So somebody who's embarking on FedRAMP or CMMC and going to get a gap assessment, define your scope, make sure that you're having the gap assessment done on a defined space for it.
Right.
Have a goal, so have a specific goal of what you're trying to get to. And then we talked about this on our podcast, but something like a gap assessment is a qualitative risk assessment. Usually.
Right. So qualitative, not quantitative, where you're getting all sorts of data. You want to be fast, right? Mm-hmm. So if you remember, what was the one thing that's important when you're doing qualitative risk assessments?
It's experience.
It's experience.
Yep.
Absolutely. So if experience matters, and if you abdicate the whole process, like figure out my data flows, and whatever it is, right, you're going to lose your shirt on that gap assessment, and you really won't be that much better off, right? So, anyways.
Love it. Okay, so when you're embarking then, the 3 call-outs: experience matters, be specific with your end goal, have a defined scope.
I love it.
Love it.
Man, you're just getting better and better.